I would really, strongly advise that putting your money, where your heart is really important.
That's very true.
But also, understanding that this is the future.
Yeah.
Eventually you're gonna be here.
Yes.
Whether it's now or later, I could guarantee if your heart is here, you're gonna be here.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Africa is the future, you guys. Like. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where we're all about leveling up, elevating, and living our absolute best lives. So today we're here with one of the owners of D3N9 and NBA player. You have a lot of titles, so we're gonna just read them because I'm like, I don't leave anything out. So recently retired NBA player, two-time NBA All-Star, who played 15 years in the league, and Chicago Bulls' fourth all-time scorer, and an ambassador to NBA Africa as well, and a basketball president for South Sudan national team. And like I said, part owner of D3N9 here in Uganda. So welcome. So I wanted to know a little bit about like how your retirement is going so far and your ventures within Africa right now.
Yeah, retirement has been good. It's after playing 15 years in the NBA and all those years preparing to be a professional basketball.
Yeah.
When you retire, it's a life changing.
Yeah,
a lot of things change. So it's been interesting. It's been moving fast. I look back and it feels like I retired yesterday.
Okay.
But it's almost 2 years now. So yeah, it's been going well. A lot of my focus has shifted to obviously my investments and my career after playing. So.
Right, of course. So now that you've said that your focus has shifted, of course you were used to like such a disciplined everyday life, and then now things are a bit different. What was the deciding factor, like your first venture or I guess investment idea and whatnot once you were retired?
Well, I started really focusing on real estate really around 2012, 2013.
Okay.
I knew that, at that time I've been in the league for a while already.
Okay.
I got drafted in 2004.
Oh, okay. So you have yourself some time.
Yeah, and I learned just, that I wasn't going to play forever.
Right.
And I had to really be smart and not waiting to the last minute.
Yes.
And one of the things that really I got into is real estate.
Right.
And we started, investing in different parts of the world, mostly in the beginning in the U.S.
Okay.
But Africa's always been there, and it's always been an ideal place where I want to be and I want to invest in.
Yes.
So it's all about putting everything together.
Right.
But I really encourage a lot of people to start investing or thinking about investing.
Yes.
Way earlier than you really should. So
okay.
A lot of us start thinking about it a bit late.
Do you feel like you did it at the right time then?
It's I could have done it earlier. I could have done it later.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I think I'm happy with where everything is.
Yes.
A lot of times with investment, what you learn throughout the years is it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of patience. And you start realizing you don't really get a lot of people who are very successful at a young age earlier.
Right.
And that's really because the majority of people start thinking about investment late, and it takes a while to get there.
That's very, very true. So did you always have an interest in investing in Africa, or like you said, you had obviously started in the U.S., so you always knew at some point you would also tap into the market here, or you were always or it just kind of fell upon you later?
Yeah, it's very interesting because in the beginning, when I was younger and moving into the UK and eventually getting drafted, going to the US and getting drafted, we're always forced this idea of just always thinking of just helping.
Right.
So for me in the beginning, my mindset was really, play basketball, make money playing basketball, keep the money that I have and help people. It wasn't always, I'm going to go back to Africa and just build all these buildings.
Okay.
And as I start to get older, you start to see things differently.
Right.
And you have friends, I have friends who were always talking about Africa and family members who, came back to Africa.
Yeah.
And they start feeding you ideas where, you need to come see it. It's not what you think it is.
Right.
You could really invest in Africa and make a great return. and your mind starts shifting.
Right.
And I started really coming back and spending time. And the first time I came back, I knew that I was going to invest in Africa because I just saw the potential of it.
Yes, there's so much.
Yeah, and I was meeting with people, successful people who, they were making their return faster than the successful people that I know in the US
Yes.
or the UK, and that really got my interest.
When was your first visit back then? Because obviously, given your career, you're constantly on the ball of just like training and playing. So when did you?
It was around 2009, 2010.
Oh, okay.
It's the first time I came back.
Okay.
And I came back. My first time I went to Kakuma refugee camp with UNHCR, and from there we flew into Juba. I flew into Wow and then into Juba, South Sudan, and then that's really where I started to see everything.
Okay, that's amazing. So a lot of people move from Africa, kind of, I guess, quote unquote, get like this better life and whatnot. So at what point did you realize that you were like, no, I actually want to do something there, versus kind of just like, oh, I'm just gonna come visit or just relax? Or
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you think about people moving, I think a lot of people in Africa obviously move for a better life.
Yes,
And this is something that needs to change. It's something that as we get older, we see it more. I think the diaspora and the people, now I think there's more knowledge of what's really the potential, the things that you could do in Africa.
Right.
So for me, I always, me coming back, we're really pushing and trying to create that middle ground.
Right.
How can D3N9, how can we invest or change the narrative of, affordable housing, having a middle class, or it's just things that, growing up we didn't have. We were always used to rich and poor.
Yes.
And a lot of times when you see it, there's people that are comfortable in Africa.
Yeah.
And majority of the time, people that leave are people that are uncomfortable. So we need to change that narrative.
Yes, for sure. Especially that idea of it just being a handout to Africa versus like empowering and bettering the communities. So I definitely agree with that. Mentioning D3N9, was this your first venture in Africa? And can you elaborate also on why real estate versus maybe other sectors like tech or agriculture, like most people may go into and stuff?
Yeah, like I said, so I fell in love really with real estate early, and I think for me, I had a friend who was started with flipping houses.
Oh, okay. In Africa?
No,
actually
in the UK.
Okay,
yeah.
I was gonna say.
Nah, it was in the UK, but it gave me the idea where I was spending time with him, and I got to really learn that his money was working for him.
Yeah.
And being an athlete, I was always used to every season or every game I had to perform because I knew there's a contract coming up next. So I was working for my money.
Yeah.
So I really love that concept of money working for me.
You, yes.
And that's really how I got into real estate. And then I love the idea of owning something that's, that is visual and you could see.
Right.
And I was introduced by a friend to the technology that we have with D3N9, which is, that builds faster and is safer. So for me, when I came back in 2010, I saw that, this technology can really, help a lot in Africa, and it should be in Africa.
Yes.
And we started investing in that. But with real estate, with D3N9, there's different branches, there's, like, for example, here in the US, we're doing ground up. And that's, starting from scratch, buying the land and starting from scratch.
Yes.
But also we invest in like I said, flipping houses.
Yes.
We invest into other things where, for example, we can get into a building where we invest in percentage-wise instead of us building the actual building.
Right.
So there's different, parts of it. But really, why real estate? For me, is because you can't go wrong with real estate. Obviously, you could make the wrong investment, but owning the land and making making the right decision to buy it in the right place, most likely you'll get your money back, or you'll get a huge return from it. With techs and other stuff, it's a hit or miss.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of times if you hit big.
Yes.
And if you miss big. So, and that's really the difference between that. And it doesn't mean I don't invest in tech also.
Yes.
I just love real estate, and I think that's where our main, focus is.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with D3N9, what uniqueness are you bringing to the industry here in Uganda?
So the thing that unique about us, we're precast. So basically, when I first saw D3N9, I couldn't believe it because we're making L-shaped walls.
Yeah.
We're making walls at such a fast rate.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, everybody's different. But when I was driving around, it used to bother me a lot seeing so many bricks.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's uneven.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on people. It's just what they have, and that's what they're
Of
working
course.
with. And seeing all the wood sticks and everything. A lot of times you see it early and it doesn't look safe.
Yeah, at all, actually.
Yeah,
at all.
but that's really been done for years.
Yes.
But for me, it just didn't sit well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw Elcon, which is the L-shaped buildings, we wanted to invest in that technology because I knew once people see it and once people get used to, you know, this type of technology, people realize that it's actually, you know, possible to make such a quality building at such a low rate or affordable rate, and you could still live, you know, in a comfortable, you know, apartment or building or whatever it is, and that's really why I was so motivated because I wanted that to be home. So.
Right. So you have the particular project that you have in Mutungo is called Badge Apartments. So what's the aim of the apartments then, from D3N9 point of view?
Yeah, well, D3N9, obviously we're coming into this market. We know there's a lot of, you know, this competition. But what we want to do is bring in our technology, brings a different look, obviously.
Yes.
Once we put the building up, or even while we're building the building, people will realize that this is the future. This is such a unique way to build.
Yes.
Also, being affordable and having space and comfortable. I think there's a lot of stuff that we bring into the table that is not here yet.
Right.
And this is what gives us an advantage and why we're so excited to break ground.
Right.
You know, and Uganda is going to be our first place to put up this building. Everywhere else in real estate, we haven't been from ground up.
Oh, okay,
you know, but the future is eventually to spread D3N9 all around the continent.
Right.
What made Uganda so unique at the time? Obviously, when we wanted to invest in Africa, we wanted a place where it would be seen, a place where people will understand, but a place where it's also moving forward. And at the time, we felt that Uganda is actually heading in the right direction. You know, Kenya is another possibility, South Sudan is another possibility. So most of East Africa, but we also want to go west. We want to go all over. And this is the first step to where we want to get to. And it took a lot of work, but we learned a lot. You know, we went through a lot, and we learned a lot that going forward will make it a lot easier. So, you know, Uganda will always be unique to us because this is the beginning of, you know, ground up from D3N9.
Okay, so what I actually really love too about the whole project is the affordable housing, but it's different than what we've seen in the market in Uganda because of the luxurious aspect to it. So it's not like you're living in affordable housing and it's uncomfortable. You're still going to be able to feel like, okay, I'm home, and be proud about it. So I really do like that. Yeah,
no, definitely, exactly, and that's what I was talking about earlier between the poor and the rich, or you know, not having that middle ground where. You know, even just think of, you know, a lot of times you can have, you know, a small investment, but you can't really go as far as living as comfortable as you want because you have other responsibilities. What we're trying to do is actually, you know, have a place, apartment, you know, live in a building where it's affordable, it's comfortable, it's luxurious, and it looks beautiful, and you still have, you know, that spending money where you can live your life comfortably. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
So. Not this or that, it's both. That's amazing. So you did mention earlier about business in Africa. Could you name some pros and cons of doing business in Africa?
I could name many.
Okay.
You know, like I said earlier, Africa is such a beautiful place, and your mind will go crazy.
Insane.
With, you know, with things that you could do here.
Possibilities are endless.
But it's really but it's really, really important that you stick to what you're trying to do because you will jump around. It's just given, you know, because you'll meet people that are doing well in other investment, and your mind can start jumping. But when you invest in Africa, there's things, you know, a couple of things that I always say you need. One, you have to have the time to actually invest and put in time in what you're doing. You know, and the best way to do that, honestly, you have to have people in the ground that you trust. And with D3N9, that's what we really did.
You guys have an amazing setup that you were able to accomplish.
No, thanks to AJ and Joe. You know, they dedicated so much of their life to come here and be, you know, hands-on on the ground. for me, I advise people that unless you know a successful business and a trustworthy business that you want to invest in, that's different. But for me, if you're really trying to be, successful in Africa, you have to, invest in the time because, whether you like it or not, it's not going to be as smooth as you picture it in your head.
Exactly, and so many things can end up happening, and if you're not here or if you don't have someone here,
Yeah, and that was, I think for me, that was the biggest learning point, honestly, that you can have a picture in your mind of how it's going to be.
Right.
You might get there, but it's not going to be a smooth line. It's really it's just not.
That's true. It's a bit of a reality check.
It's gonna be like a lot of African roads. It's gonna be bumps. It's gonna be, bumps. Listen, it's gonna be bumps and curves that you need to figure out. So.
That's actually such a great way to put it.
Yeah, seriously.
And then I guess pros, or one big pro that you can
think pros is obviously, your return of investment.
Yeah.
Your return on investment is huge. And I think for us, the biggest pro, I think, is knowing that you're investing at home and you're making life, not only you're making life better for others, you're also, putting Africa on the map in terms of the type of buildings that you want to build.
Right.
You want to go back and tell, the diaspora and people outside of Africa, like, look what we did at home. You can do it too. Let's come back.
Yeah.
And I think people are looking for that. A lot of times, a lot of diaspora or a lot of people who left Africa have the image of why they left it
and how they left it
for
like 20 years even later.
And now when you tell them, because we all shared stories with friends of how difficult it was. So now it's time to kind of like share stories of how beautiful and what we're doing and come back and see it. So I think that's the biggest pro.
That's amazing, especially just the value adding part of it. Like you're adding value, you're not just here just handing out. You're really trying to build something. So that's beautiful.
Exactly.
So there's this saying that everyone always says, east or west, home is best. Do you ever see yourself relocating to Africa, or do you kind of see it more so like living anywhere in the world but still investing here?
No, I think for me, I'm making the transition. I think
that's a good way to say it.
I love being home, and I think as of right now, I'm probably splitting time since I retired. It's probably 6 months and 6 months.
Right.
I think in the future I'll spend more time in Africa. I'll always go back and visit because for the longest I wanted it to be the other way. Was always living, in the U.S. or Europe, and I'm visiting Africa. I would love for it to be
the other way around.
Living in Africa and visiting, the U.S. or the U.K. I think for me, everything that I want to do with the majority of things is on both sides. Where I really want to live is back home. There's so much to do back home.
So much to do.
It's good to be close to it. So.
Right. So now, given that you were born in South Sudan, you've lived in other areas of Africa, then you went to the UK, then the US. How do you balance life? Now it must be easier because you're in retirement, but like, how do you balance everything?
It's at first I used to think of it as it was difficult and it was hard to do, but it's the opposite.
Oh, okay.
I think
seriously,
because you end up everywhere that you've been becomes a piece of you.
That's true.
And you make friends everywhere.
Yeah.
And you actually find it really. For example, coming into Africa for a month or so, I get to see people I haven't seen in a while.
That's true.
Right? But I'm not going to lie to you. After a while, you want to get out. And,
and go. You need to breathe.
So you go see your other friends. It could be in the UK. And you go to the UK, and the weather is not always beautiful, so you get to move. And so for me, I really love it because I get to kind of move around and enjoy every, all the cultures, but also enjoy all my friends and everything.
Beautiful, so. Like the best parts of all the different places.
No, seriously. If someone is looking for me, I just go somewhere else.
Bye. Makes sense. I can relate. I totally understand. Given that you're doing business here now, you've been to Uganda multiple times before, though, prior to starting anything. How do you like Uganda, and like, what's your favorite part, if you can mention anything specific?
Uganda, the first time I came to Uganda, I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
And when I first came, honestly, I really thought it was going to be very similar to because I was in Kenya.
Oh, okay.
I was obviously in
Okay.
South Sudan, then in Kenya,
Yes.
then I came to Uganda. But to me, when I first came, I kept telling people everywhere is hills.
Yeah.
You know, like seriously, it's the first thing that stood out for me. I was like, everywhere is hills.
Yeah, all our
And
hills.
after a while, I was right, but
Mhm.
Uganda is so beautiful in that aspect of the landscape.
Mhm.
And also, you know, when I came here, I loved the nightlife.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I mean, I'm
No,
not
I
gonna.
can agree.
Yeah, and you know, when I went back, I was like, you know what? They're really serious about, you know, having a good time. And I also love the food. I had a friend here who, I forgot where he took us. It's on the lake, somewhere on the lake, and we
Okay.
had like cultural food. And to me, I will
Okay.
always remember that because the view was beautiful, the weather was
Yes,
beautiful. We
yeah.
had local food.
I'm guessing by the
So-
lake you had fish.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
the smoked fish and whatnot.
The
Yeah.
smoked fish. I don't want to get the name wrong seriously, because you're gonna laugh at me. But I could draw a picture for you of
Yeah,
everything
you're like,
that I
that's
ate.
exactly what I had.
Okay, if I get the name wrong, I'm gonna be an Instagram meme, so I'm not gonna go there. But no, there's a lot of things to it. You know, there's a lot
Yeah.
of things, and it felt natural. You know, being South Sudanese, honestly, in
Right.
Uganda. Obviously, there's a lot of us
Yeah.
here, but
Yes, of course.
people are used to South Sudanese.
Mhm.
Even, you know, Kenya is kind of similar.
Right.
There's other places in the world where we really stick out.
Right.
We still stick out, but
Your height.
yeah, but in Uganda, you've seen me before. You've seen my lookalike
Yes.
somewhere. So, you know, so that's comfortable. You know, that feels
Yeah.
good. So.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So, but I guess prior to coming here, you weren't, you didn't have any preconceived notions. No one told you anything specific, or it was just.
No, I never really asked, to
That's
be honest.
nice.
Yeah, no, because I even had friends from here,
Okay.
even in London that I grew up with.
There's so many.
But
Ugandans
honestly,
in
it
the
was
UK.
just, you know, I'm from Uganda, I'm from South Sudan. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we share how I grew up, how you grew up, but it
Mhm.
wasn't, oh, you should go right now and see this and check this out.
Right.
Not till you really get older, you start having
Mhm.
those conversations. When
Yeah.
young people don't have those conversations.
not really.
You know, not really. You know, when you get older, it's like, oh man, I was
Mhm.
here. You got to go see it. This
Right.
is beautiful.
But that's nice. That's a nice way to go travel, where it's like no expectations. You just go with clean slate.
Yeah, not true. That's
Yeah.
true. Also.
Well, that's dope. In closing this video, I just want to ask you 3 more questions. So now that you're in retirement, what can we expect from you moving forward? Besides, of course, the D3N9 project and real estate. Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm involved in a lot of things, especially with the continent.
Mhm.
Like you said earlier, really helped launch Basketball Africa
Yes.
League with the NBA, which is the first league, you know, the first league in Africa that kind of
Mhm.
brings all the countries together.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's so unique because growing up, we always looked to go to the U.S.
Yeah.
And you didn't think when I'll become professional,
Mhm.
I'll be playing in the continent. So I think
Right.
for a lot of athletes, and hopefully we'll follow up with a women's league, but
Mhm.
for a lot of athletes, it's such a beautiful thing to actually say, when I get older, I might play in Europe, NBA, or I might be in Africa or Asia.
Right,
Like we got to be
yeah.
in that conversation,
Right.
and we weren't. So now we are. So
Yes.
that's something I'm spending a lot of time in.
Mhm.
Obviously, basketball in South Sudan, being the president of the
course.
federation, how do we raise the bar to give all these young athletes an opportunity, not only to be professional athletes, but to
Mhm.
change their life in terms of mentorship,
so
scholarships.
important.
You could become anything beside. You could start with basketball.
Right.
You know, you could take that opportunity to become anything that you want.
Right.
So we want to, you know, I really want to focus on that and laying the ground. You know, if I'm not there in the future, at least we put something on the ground where people could follow.
Right, and shaping lives, like you're shaping youth in Africa. That's
Exactly,
amazing.
exactly. And then we have our, you know, the Luol Foundation, which has been operating since 2014, pretty much since I got in the NBA.
Oh, okay, okay.
And you know, we focus on a bunch of different things. Whether
Mhm.
it's, you know, we do a lot of hospitals where we actually have doctors with our borders, our own version, where doctors
Okay.
come back and they go to rural areas and villages where they could treat people that
Okay.
wouldn't get access to hospitals.
Right, right.
We've built schools. We do basketball programs. We
That's
do food
amazing.
drive. Yeah, you know, we got our hands on everything.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more than just the investment part.
Right, right.
You know, the investment part obviously is something that it's going to go on for a long time, but also the other things is something that's changing lives, just, you know, out of passion and from,
of
you know,
course.
from my heart, so.
That is so amazing. Of course, I think a lot of people have a specific narrative of Africa, as we mentioned earlier. What are your favorite things to do just on the continent in general, if you can name a couple of?
I think, you know, for me, it's how unique we are, and the different, you know, in appreciating every culture.
Yes.
When you travel, and I really mean this, I try to explain it to people. When you go to Europe or the US, and this is not knocking down Europe or the US, but most of the time when you go to Europe or US, you're so interested in, I gotta go see this, or I gotta go see
specific things.
Yeah, in Africa, in every country you go to, you really learn about the culture and the people.
Yeah.
You know, and you see, you know, how much people are attached with their culture, and how that makes them, or how they behave, or how they act.
Yes.
And you start going to every different country, and you learn about it. You know, you learn about, you know, where you're from, and I'm from this village. What do you guys do? Like, there's more to it. Like, you know, and it's not a knock on, again, on, you know, Europe. Like, if I go to Europe and someone tells me, like when I'm in England, for example, and someone tells me I'm from North London, right? Okay, you live in North London, you know, but when someone here, you know, I go here, South Sudan or Kenya, and you tell me I'm from this village or I'm from this tribe, right away it's just questions after questions.
So many,
So when I travel, more than anything, obviously there's sightseeing.
Yes, of course.
But more than anything, it's the people.
The people.
You know, the people, and kind of learning about them and everything.
Yes, that's amazing. And then lastly, speaking of people, what advice would you give young people trying to relocate to Africa or doing business in African investing? So young professionals or athletes or whichever. Yeah,
I think my biggest thing, honestly, biggest message is don't be afraid. I think try to learn about Africa on your own, where you could reach out to friends.
Yes.
You know, if you have family members who recently traveled.
Network is everything.
Network is everything. And if you can, honestly, if you can, I know not everyone can, but if you can travel, you know, anywhere in Africa just to see it for yourself and learn for yourself, I would advise that. Because a lot of us growing up, we were told our story, you know, you were kind of forced to believe what you're seeing or what you're hearing.
Right.
And it's different now. So in terms just, you know, the youth and everyone, that's what I would advise. Investors, I would really, you know, strongly advise that putting your money, you know, where your heart is really important.
That's very true.
But also, you know, understanding that this is the future. Yeah. You know, eventually you're going to be here.
Yes.
Whether it's now or later, I could guarantee if your heart is here, you're going to be here.
Yeah. So. I love that. Africa is the future, you guys. Like the perfect way to wrap this up. Thank you so much for answering all our questions today. Guys, of course, follow him on his, I'll leave everything in the description box below, but where can they find you nonetheless?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You know, you'll find, all of us are in that now, so I'm sure, you know, you'll find me in that.
Yeah, amazing. And like always, please do remember to subscribe, hit the bell notification button. All information about the D3N9 project will be in the description box below as well. You can check out everything that you need to know and get some inspiration, you guys. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll check you guys in the next video. Bye guys.